on this call, whether you're, a month into this or whether you're just in real estate school or you've been doing it 20 years and feel like you could do more in this area, it truly is the smartest way to run your business. When you look at it from a financial perspective, when you look at it from a quality of life perspective, definitely financially. I take great pride in saying that in 25 years, I've never run an ad on myself. I've not, had to do, my first year, I did a lot of door knocking. I did everything I could, to hit the ground and build those relationships because I was fairly new to this area. But the goal, I always say, is this: whether you have always been a cold lead generator or you do have good relationships, the goal is not to have to constantly be spending money on getting business. And the goal is to have your phone ringing instead of you paying to make that phone ring, or for you to be picking up the phone and calling everyone else. So that's just kind of what I set my sights on from the very beginning. Some of the things, one of the things I wanted to focus on today, that when I used to teach classes, I was a broker in charge for quite a while, for 2 large companies, and then all the other time I've been in sales. But when I taught classes on building your sphere back in, the late 90s, the early 2000s, it really clicked with me. I just finished writing a class on this that I'm going to teach in January, and that is, how to explode your business with your sphere of influence. The definition of sphere, you guys, has totally changed. Back when I started as a broker in charge in around 2000, I would tell my agents, make a list of everybody that's cut your hair, everybody that's worked on your car, everyone that, and that's how we always thought. Think about what sphere means today and how much technology has changed our sphere. I used to never be able to communicate with agents all across the country and meet them through Facebook and through LinkedIn and get referrals. I used to not be able to expand my referral basis from friends and family out of this market like I can now. So I think I will say this, and I don't want this to be a social media class at all, but I will say this: social media is part of your sphere, which means that anybody in the world can now be part of your sphere. And that's a pretty cool thing. When I say that, I don't mean you're going to have a personal relationship with everyone across the world, but those that you do connect with and link arms with through social media, they're watching you every single day. Are you the agent that they see post something about real estate 3 times a year? Or are you the agent that is not afraid to get on there? Who cares if your hair is messed up? Who cares if you don't have your makeup on? And do a quick video saying, oh my gosh, I'm so excited. I just, negotiated a multiple offer deal for my buyer. We were up against 3 other offers and we did it. This is what I love about this business, right? So I would ask, does that feel braggy? Or does that just celebrating excitement for what you do? I hear so many times when it comes to social media, I don't want to come across as a bragger. If you come across, I think, from a point of gratitude and excitement, as long as you're doing both or one or the other, if you look at my posts, if it is about real estate, it's going to be about how much I love what I do. And I do. Otherwise, I wouldn't still be here 25 years later. I feel like if people don't feel that energy and excitement, then they're going to pick the realtor offline or off the internet or off social media that does. So one thing I would ask you to question yourself as you enter 2020 is, what is the perception of you on the internet and on social media specifically? Yeah, we can all go out and party and have a good time and post a picture of us at happy hour every once in a while. But if I do that, I'm going to follow it right up with something the next day about business. And make sure that I am always top of mind. But to me, thinking about sphere now and having the ability to be at the top of people's minds, man, it's so much easier than writing out postcards and sending them in snail mail like we used to do and knocking on doors. Hi, I'm a realtor. Now it's just a quick video or a quick post, and just keeping yourself top of mind is so easy now. So
So,
social media, I don't think I'm not the best at it, but I'm not afraid of it. And I would encourage you not to be afraid of it. If you don't have anything to say about you that week, post something about a new neighborhood. Pull up in your car, stick your camera, your phone camera out your window and drive through the neighborhood and say, here's what I know about this new Pulte neighborhood, or here's what I know about this new D.R. Horton community. If you want to know more, it's important for you to have representation. Call me. You are building relationships by doing that, whether you know these people personally that are seeing it or not. So that's all
I'm,
I'm going to say about social media. I think it's perception.
no, I want to jump in on this because I think you make obviously a lot of good points in there. I was writing as fast as I could, but what I took away from that, obviously the gratitude and excitement. I think if you've done it, it's not really bragging if you're just sharing it, right?
Right, right.
Um, and I like the place that you come from of truly being grateful for what you're able to do and have the enthusiasm. But what I heard in there is that you have another way of really touching your relationships,
Right.
uh, and you're doing it from a number of different angles. But I look at it this way, like if you're not top of mind, they're not calling you, right?
Right.
And so, take somebody to lunch
Yeah.
or coffee or go to an event or a charity thing, or if you like golf or something, you can do that. But how many people can you do that with really
Right.
effectively in a 30, 60, 90-day period where what you're talking about is you're constantly planting seeds with
Yes.
your relationships.
Yes. And I think the other piece to that too, following up with your sphere as it relates to social media, you guys, when I look in this phone, there are thousands of contacts in there, right?
Yeah.
So as good as I would like to think I am, I'm really not that great at systems. I'm more the people person and being out and touching people and caring about them. But one thing I will say is if I really tried to go in and touch everybody that I've worked with in this business in the past 25 years via a text or an email, unless it's just more of a canned email, which is also a good thing. And we'll talk about that in a minute with KB Core, some of the great tools and platforms that we have to use. But through social media, what I use it for is it reminds me of people, and if they're having a trial in their life, they get a message from me, right? Sometimes what I'll do actually is I think it's sometimes better not to comment on that on Facebook, but I see it on Facebook or I see it on LinkedIn. It reminds me to shoot them a text and just say, hey, I saw your post and I just want you to know if there's anything I can do to help you and your family, or I saw your post that the kids are in town for Christmas. I hope you guys have a great holiday. Let's get together after the first of the year, right? So people are like, you're so good at staying in touch with people. I'm like, Facebook is my lifeline, a lot of times to remember who I need to touch and to get more of those opportunities.
So what I appreciate is that you're using that as kind of like a radar,
Yes,
like calibrating what's going on with your relationships, and then you're using other mediums to let them know that you care. Because ultimately,
correct.
that's what you're doing is you're stepping up, and like you said, if somebody's having a challenging time,
Right.
reach out to them separately and really connect. So it's
And of
a
course, we all have those people that we could say, I would prefer not to work with them again. Very few, but for the majority of the people we work with, I would say that we all would like to keep in touch with them and we
yes.
would like to let them know that we care about them, but it's just hard to do and keep up with everybody sometimes. So I use social media for top of mind more than anything, and also just for communication and for keeping in touch.
How often are you checking in on your social media around your sphere? Is this a daily thing, multiple times a day? What's that look like?
I would say at least once a day. Usually nighttime is kind of my time just to sit and digest and go through everybody's posts, and definitely then I keep a running list each week. I know people don't like paper anymore, but for me, if I keep a list of the touches I need to make on my front seat, then while I'm driving, you know how much time we spend in the car, I can
Yeah.
look over and go, oh, I saw that BJ, had a prayer request this week. I need to touch base with her. Or, so-and-so was having surgery last week. I got to remember. So I keep them on my list until I've remembered to touch them, whether it's a phone call or a text message. I'm a huge texter. But the other thing I'll say real quick about social media is testimonials, you guys. I mean, I had a closing yesterday with a great guy. And this is one quick example, I think, of how social media got me his business. And I meant to ask him at the closing yesterday, but I failed to. But this guy is so connected in this town. He knows everybody in this town. And I have probably only seen him in person 10 times, over 10 years that I've been friends with him on Facebook, and we have mutual friends, maybe even only 8 times. And last year I saw him at an event and he said, I'm going through a divorce and I'm going to need some help with real estate next year, but it's going to be next year. I said, great. Can I go ahead and set you up on a search so that you can start getting an idea of what you can get for your money? And that, I use those automated searches, you guys, all the time. It's non-threatening. I do them through KV Core. I just said, hey, let me know what areas of Charleston you're thinking of and about the price point. I'm not going to make you go through qualification yet and all that. And then when you're ready, at least I know what. I was at the top of his mind every day a new listing popped on the market. So sure enough, he called me about a month and a half ago. We closed yesterday, and I told him how grateful I was that I knew how many people he knew in this business. But you know what? I get tired of hearing that excuse. Agents go, everybody knows 50 realtors. That is so true. But who do they perceive as being the one?
Yeah.
Everybody has a perception of all their friends, who is the realtor that they perceive as being the one. And I think posting and those touches can really, really, really help with that. But testimonials. So Curtis and I were leaving the closing yesterday, and I do this right before we're getting ready to give the goodbye hug. We said our congratulations. They're exciting. I say, hey, when I get in the car, would you mind if I send you a couple of links for testimonials if you're happy with my service? It's top of mind. It's right then. And what do they always say? They're excited. They're happy. They're like, of course, Meg, and I do. I sit down in my car and I immediately send the links to, whatever, Zillow and realtor.com. And then what I do is if I'm not friends with them on Facebook, I friend them right after the closing. I do not recommend being friends with your clients during the transaction unless you were already. But I friend them, and then when they do their testimonials, I copy and paste their testimonial into a post, because people are going to see your post more than somebody else posting on your timeline. So anyway, testimonials, please ask for them. They work, they work, they work.
That is a really good advice, and I like your timing at the time that they're most excited about the whole thing. And if you don't catch them then they're moving and unpacking and doing 9 million other things. So that's great advice. All right, so you've been in the business 25 years. You I believe you told me that you have 20 people in your level 1.
I do.
Right? EXP level 1s. And what I thought was interesting is that you had a very similar approach to how you run your business as to how you approach your agents that you're going to introduce this to. Would you share a little bit about that for people that are on the call? Because not everybody is feeling so bold to just run out there and grab anybody, but I think your approach would align very well with other people.
Well, and I think pretty much anything that we've talked about so far on this call can be applied directly to the agent attraction side of it as well, right? You want to grow your sphere of buyers and sellers, correct? You want to grow that repeat and referral business. And it's no different than wanting to expand your sphere or your opportunities to be in front of agents in the business and be able to share a little bit about EXP with them. But the number one thing I think I've tried to keep at the top of my mind with the agent attraction piece is No one in this world, and this applies to anything. I teach this. I think if my kids say one thing that they remember me harping on, it's no one cares how much you know until they know how much you care. And that is just a rule that I live by. And it's a rule definitely in my business with clients and with agent attraction, right? The agents that I find have done the best, and I've been to mastermind retreats, I've been to Brent Gove's events, I've coupled with Shelly and Craig LePage, or Shelly Johnson and Craig LePage, who are dear friends of mine from Charlotte. And what I find is the people that really approach it from a heartfelt, I think this could be a positive thing for your business approach, are the ones that are successful. It's the people that go on to Facebook or social media or do emails to agents that they only met once saying, have you heard about EXP? And all of a sudden the vomiting starts, right? I call it just profusely vomiting EXP. People don't care about anything until they know how much you care. So what I've always done, just like with Curtis, for example, when I ran into him, a year ago, and he said, hey, sometime next year, I'm going to be ready to buy, I know a ton of realtors. My first question to him would have been what? Things like, tell me about your timing. What's important to you? I know you have 3 boys. How do I know that? From social media, right? I know that. So I know you have 3 young boys. How can I best help you? What's the price point you're thinking of? What areas are you thinking of? And that way he immediately knows I care about his needs more than me just saying, how else could I have handled that? I could have been like the other 20 realtors, he said that same thing too, that say, well, I've been doing this 25 years and, I know more than anybody in this town that you're going to want to use. It's the same way with agent attraction, you guys. It's all about, tell me about your business. Tell me about your company. What excites you about your company? What was the most frustrating thing for you this year with your company? And I guarantee you guys, everybody has something that ticked them off about their company in the last year. And, if you could, a lot of people approach me and say, you've been with the company 2 years now. What don't you like about EXP, right? Nobody likes to focus on the positive. They want to find out what I don't like about EXP. And I always have something, there was a policy change that kind of frustrated me at first. However, when I stepped back and looked at it from a big picture, I knew every decision that's been made in this company, I've known is for the best interest of me, right? And it's for the best interest of my clients and for the longevity of this organization. So I find that one thing that I can say to them, and then what do? Flip the question around and say, how about you? What is it this year that you loved about Carolina One? Or what is it this year that you loved about RE/MAX? Or what is it this year that you loved about Keller Williams? Sometimes they can't answer that. Or sometimes it makes them go, oh, gotta think of something. And then, on the flip side, was there anything that frustrated you or is frustrating you in your business? Or any tools that you wish you had, or what tools are you using? The more questions you ask, the better conversation you're gonna have. And the more reputable, I think that, you start things off.
I love it. So you make it about them, just like you're saying about your sphere of influence, when you're approaching them, you're connecting. I love it. And those are some great questions. And you start finding out a lot about people when they talk about what they like or what they don't like.
Right.
And the reality is, this is just an opportunity to get to know somebody, just like it would be, as you said, with Curtis.
Correct.
A year ago, he was not a buyer, but you need to create that relationship. So it's a relationship approach. Well, I think so far what I've taken away from what you're sharing today is really take the time to create relationships everywhere you go.
Right.
And then make sure you're standing out from the rest in terms of how you'll look at social media, and then approach them offline to create that deeper relationship. I love it.
And
now,
I think,
I noticed.
oh, sorry. I think too, I'm sorry, things pop into my head. I'm the
Yeah.
typical ADHD real estate agent. But I think too that you want to always, whether it's on social media or when you run into people, former clients, new people that you meet, two things. I think number one thing my dad always stressed with me, and I think I'm fairly good at, is small talk. You have an opportunity every time you meet someone new, whether it's on social media or it's in person. And you know, I could have said to Curtis a year ago, oh, I know everybody knows so many realtors in town, but if there's any way I can help you, please let me know. And I turn and walk away, right? Which in a social setting is easy to do because you're distracted, you got 15 other people you need to talk to. Where my dad always said, ask questions about people because people love to talk about themselves.
So true.
So that's how you small talk, you know, and I've had a lot of people say, my ex-husband actually said to me one time, I need you to help me with small talk because I'm horrible at it. And, you know, I just said, all you have to do is ask questions about them, make it about them, and it'll be successful. So I don't even know where that came from, but that's one thing I would say.
You don't have to be like all brilliant in sharing all kinds of pearls. You just focus 100% of your attention on them,
Yeah.
make it about them. Well, the reality is, what's everybody's favorite subject? Themselves, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And then secondly, I think looking for pain.
Mm.
And learning the right kinds of questions to ask. I could teach a whole class on that. I love look how to look for the pain. And I don't mean that in a negative way, but when you think about why people buy houses, there's typically some kind of life change happening.
Yes.
You know, I would say at least 50% of the time that either they're selling because of a life change or they're buying because of a life change. And Lord knows with the divorce rate today, that's probably 80% now. But, you know, they're having a baby and they need a bigger house, or they're getting transferred, or they've lost their job or whatever. So look for the pain, not only in people's lives, but look for the pain in agents' lives and in their business when you're looking for an opportunity to talk with them about how we as a company might be able to transition that to a more positive experience for them.
So, you know, it's interesting. Use the word pain, which is obviously a very easy way to identify and very clear. The word that I use, it's the same thing, is what are they concerned about? Like, what's weighing on their mind? What is they might be losing sleep over, right? Any of those kind of things that fall in that category. And when you connect with them on that, you have 100% of their attention.
Right.
When you're talking about you and your 25 years and how great of a negotiator or marketing you are, whatever, like they're thinking about going shopping or whatever they got to do next.
Yeah. They're thinking about getting away from you.
Right.
How can I find someone else to talk to?
Excellent. All right. Well, we're kind of wrapping up the last couple minutes. We've had a few questions that came in on the chat, which we've slid into our conversation. If anybody else has any additional questions they want to slide in, now's the time. And as we wait for any of those to come through, what's one thing you'd like to leave for everybody who's joined us today? What's one thing?
I think we're at such a beautiful time of year right now, Joe, where we're all reflecting on the past year. My kids hate December because they know it puts mom in reflection mode. And so I start, you know, texting them encouraging quotes and, you know, like all this life changing, because I'm like, I'm at the end of the year. What have I done to influence my adult children this year? You know, so we're all at that stage. And I think as you look forward and you're making your plan for 2020, I would encourage you to rate yourself on a few things, if you would. Number one is, what is the perception of you to anyone that knows you?
That's a good one.
What is the perception of you to anyone that knows you? Do they think of you as a realtor first? I mean, if they're really close friends, obviously, you know, you want them to think of you as a friend first. But Do they think of you as a realtor, or are they still thinking of you in your former career, or as a mom, a stay-at-home mom, or as a stay-at-home dad? You know, whatever it may be, what is the perception of you? So rate yourself on that on a scale of 1 to 10. I would also ask you to rate yourself on what has your communication been the past 12 months with past clients, friends, and family. Particularly past clients, because your friends and family, guys, are your friends and family. You know, hopefully most of the time, if they hear somebody talking about real estate, they're going to bring your name up. And then third, I would say rate yourself on, this is totally kind of unrelated, but your quality of life and what you are spending your time on. I fought and fought and fought for years to not hire a closing coordinator, because just like most real estate agents, I do have a tiny bit of control factor in my life. And I hired one 3 years ago, and she is my lifeline. I mean, so my quality of life, I hate to say this, I hope there's none of my clients on here, but I am not nearly as busy as my social media page looks like I am, right? I actually am at the phase of my life where I'm exactly where I want to be. I'm going to be 50 next year. I want more time to myself. I want to work smart. I love controlling my own schedule. But, you know, when they see 5 posts a week out of me, and every one of them is, I just finished a closing and I'm headed to another walkthrough, or, you know, I'm conscientious of when I do them. They think, oh my gosh, that girl never stops. She must work 36 hours out of a 24-hour day. That is a good perception for people to have. Yeah. You want them to see you as not only the person that's busy, but the last thing I'll say is rate yourself on whether or not you are a good conveyor of knowledge. And we didn't even get to talk about that, but it's so easy, you guys, with the internet today. Google stuff about your community. Google new neighborhoods in Charleston, new neighborhoods in Boston. Get to know the builders and be the one that is posting new information. Hey, the bridge got approved, or this happened. And then they not only perceive you as a real estate expert, but your community expert as well. KV Core, that's the last thing I'll say. Rate yourself on your use of KV Core. And when I say KV Core, it's not just for generating cold leads, but you guys, you can be using that to nurture your sphere all year long, every single day. I copy myself on every one of those buyer searches that I set up, and seller searches. By the way, one other quick tidbit, I'll take 30 seconds. Anytime you have a closing, immediately set them up on a search for the neighborhood that they just closed in. Okay, so then you were their source of information leading up to them purchasing. Now you're going to be their source of information immediately for their neighborhood all throughout the process. And guess what? I've never had one person unsubscribe to that because they want to know what's happening in their community.
Hey, for all the local Las Vegas people, I'll just mention that the MLS here gives us eProperty Watch, which does that, and those reports are really cool. It's simple to set it up, and it works great.
Awesome. So KV Core, though, you guys, you can set up email campaigns, you know, that nurture your sphere once a month. That's fine, but just make sure you're going above and beyond that too. You don't want them to constantly just be getting the canned messages.
Yeah, a little bit more personalized. Well, I can tell you right now, we could probably go for another hour and not skip a beat. You were right. You said, oh, this is going to be no problem. I love talking. And but what I appreciate is that your message was really, really specific and actionable. You know, not pie in the sky like in an ideal world. Like, this is how you can do this. And I sincerely appreciate that and want to thank you for taking the time to help all of us out.
You are so welcome.
As a reminder, you can reach Meg for any Charleston or Mount Pleasant area of South Carolina. Any referrals going back that way? And Meg, any farewell thoughts?
Gosh, I just want to wish everybody a very Merry Christmas. And I hope that you're going to have some great time with family and friends and take advantage of this season to also touch those that you care about business-wise as well.
That's good advice. And we look forward to seeing you at the shareholders meeting in Orlando.
I will
And
be there.
hopefully
That's
back on
drivable
Friday.
for me. That's drivable for me. All these things we're doing in Vegas, you guys, I got to fly.
Well, we will see you down there. And for everybody, thanks for tuning in. Meg, you're awesome. All the best.
Thank you. So nice to see everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.